Well, hey there guys, I'm Axel the Beast, and this is the Curiosity Shop, the ZeldaEngine.net video mailbag where I answer your Zelda questions. Our first question comes from JP. Do you think they will do an HD remaster of Four Swords Adventures? No. Probably not. JP also asks, how do you feel about multiplayer Zelda games? Okay, so I've only played one, and that was Four Swords, and it was the Anniversary Edition single player alone. Mode. From what I played of it, in single-player mode, it's a pretty interesting game. It's a little messy in places, but it seems very fun. I can only imagine what it's like to play with another player, actually cooperative, but I feel like I have a pretty good beat on what that would actually be like, and I feel like it would be a really fun experience. As I understand, there's some more mixed reception than Four Swords has, sort of, for some of the later, multiplayer Zelda games, particularly Four Swords Adventures. But they seem like fun games. It's a really fun idea. I'd like to see more of it. We've seen more of it with Triforce Heroes, and I just think it's a cool idea. It's sort of related to my opinion on Zelda spin-offs in general. I think it's really cool to just try out new things with the series, and I think that the multiplayer ones are an especially cool direction. I kind of like the competitive modes in Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks too, especially Phantom Hourglass. So I don't know, I feel like it'd be cool if Zelda did more with these kind of cooperative, well, not just cooperative, but generally just multiplayer experiences in general. I feel like there's a lot of interesting ground to cover there. And, yeah, basically I like them. They're weird, and they're not always the best made. It's not something in the series that Nintendo is stupendously good at making, I think yet anyway. But at the same time, it's got some really cool stuff that I'd like to see them explore a little more. Hand of Faeror asks, do you think all Sheikah tech in Breath of the Wild was made with Timeshift Stones? Also, do you want Timeshift Stones to come back in a similar way to Skyward Sword, but with better integration, such as bosses where you had to fight them in the past and present? For example, Moldarak, you could have fought him in the present and worn down his armor, which revealed a Timeshift Stone, which you could hit and then fight a weakened version in the past before it had grown, or something like that. So the Timeshift Stone thing is a little sketchy for me, because I've never liked the idea, like, say, the Ocarina of Time was made of Timeshift Stone material, but that's implied in Hyrule Soria. I'm not a fan of that, but it's implied in an official source, so there you go. Since the Timeshift Stones have, the Sheikah symbol on them, and the Sheikah are responsible for technological stuff in the past of Hyrule, and one of the technological things in the past of Hyrule is the ancient technology in Skyward Sword, it is very likely they had a hand in that. And, I don't know, I feel like, no, I feel like that the other technological stuff in Breath of the Wild, for example, is not made of Timeshift Stone. But there's definitely some related expertise, and I feel like with the blue glowy stuff, they definitely wanted them to look similar to more thematically connect them. That's about all. Hey, thematic connections, we coming back to that already, huh? Ooh. But yeah, so I don't think that they're necessarily that closely connected. As for... yeah, the Timeshift Stones were a cool mechanic. I'd love to see them again, but I'd like to see them different. I think Moldarak was awesome. I actually think it tied thematically into that dungeon in general really well, just in the sense that it was, these little monsters you fought from the past. Well, little monsters that you fought that are small, but Moldarak is just what happens to them when they get bigger. And they just get bigger and bigger until they're huge. It's not direct, it doesn't use the Timeshift Stone, but it's thematically in there, and I feel like that's cool. I feel like they didn't go in the obvious direction with that. That said, fighting a boss like that could be really cool. I had the idea of Skirvo from, the Sand Ship should have been, fought as a mini-boss in the future, like you do in the present day, and he's kind of run down, but then maybe he survives the fight, and I feel like maybe he should have been the real boss of the Sand Ship, where you fight him in the past, and he's like at full strength or something. It's not quite the same thing, but yeah, they could do more with this mechanic, or similar mechanics in the future, and I'd love to see that for sure. It was one of the coolest areas in Skyward Sword in a lot of ways, just the ideas at play with the Timeshift Stones. PJC Link asks, why do you hate Link so much? How can you say you're a fan of The Legend of Zelda but yet hate the character you play as? If you hate Link so much, then why do you play Zelda games? Also, I believe that Link is Zelda's legend. He is the hero after all. Hashtag Link rules. Alright, so I don't believe, if I did I apologize, I don't believe I said that I hated Link. I don't care for him that much, especially compared to Zelda. So for me, okay... I feel like Link's a very general character. I think he fits a lot of the stereotypes of a self-insert character. Now, this goes back to the beginning of the series, where, Link was named Link because he's the link for the player to the world. he wasn't really a character in and of himself. He was sort of just supposed to take the role of, the hero who saves the princess, and anything about him that's specific is pretty generic to that idea. Now, this has become a topic among, people discussing the Zelda series, and there's been some disagreement of that, simply because in the later games, he has some characterization. He cares about his sister in the Wind Waker. He's startled by the boat in the Wind Waker, and in Twilight Princess, he's an expert at the ranch. He's a mentor to the kids. He has to save the kids. He reacts to Midna at the end of the game, but who wouldn't? And that's my point. Who wouldn't? That's the thing. That's my disagreement with that idea, that because they say that Link's taken on he's become his own character. He's no longer just the Link. And I don't agree with that. He has definitely become more of a character, but I feel like what defines him the most is the same thing that defines any self-insert character. There's a lot of characters in stories that are meant to feel like easy to relate to, easy to put yourself in their shoes, so you can kind of feel like what they do in the story is awesome because maybe you could do it, or you can imagine yourself doing it. These characters do talk. They have opinions, they have feelings, they have emotions, they react to things. They're shown to do these things, but at the same time, you don't, they never do things that either anyone wouldn't do / relate to, or at the very least, they do things that are easy to understand, easy to see yourself, possibly doing, or at least understand why someone would do that very easily. Link falls under this. I don't feel like most people, except for scumbags, wouldn't care about their little sister in the Wind Waker, and wouldn't try to rescue her if there was no one else to do the job. I think anyone would be startled by the talking boat. I think anyone would try to take care of those kids, being the cool guy, the nice but cool guy in the village. And I feel like anyone, come on, we can all agree on this, right? I feel like anyone who saw Midna at the end of Twilight Princess, after seeing her in imp form all game, and putting up with her sass all game, sees that at the end of the game. I feel like anyone, right? Anyone would react how he did. Like whoa. It's right? It just comes down to, there's a lot of characters, and Link's one of them, that are either self-insert characters or are just very, general kinds of characters. And I just generally, I'm not that interested in them. I feel like what Link relies on to be cool, at least in my opinion, is if you like the way he looks. And while I don't think that the Peter Pan / Robin Hood outfit that people joke about him having is stupid looking or silly looking, I don't think it is. It isn't my thing. So Breath of the Wild is a big deal to me, because for the first time I feel like Link looks really cool half the time, wearing a bandana, armored leggings, just all kinds of different cool looks I can come up with for Link. And I feel like I'm, making him my own, which is something I'm into, and which I think is a good fit for a self-insert character. But at the same time, I feel like I can just make him look cooler for my personal tastes in general. Even if he wasn't a self-insert character, I would like him better in Breath of the Wild simply because of how he looks. And I realize that's a sore spot for some people, not having the original outfit at the forefront, having it take such a back seat. But I don't know, I feel like in an open world game like Breath of the Wild, it fits a lot, and, being someone who's never been a big fan of Link, it's cool for me. As for how I can be the fan of a series, I mean, Link is a self-insert character in a lot of ways. I don't need to like him that much, I just see him as me. And that's kind of how I've always been. I haven't really ever seen him strongly as another character. There have been very few situations where he does things I wouldn't do, or at least can understand. And the times where he can, it's usually a dialogue option I don't pick. Such as how everyone sassed Impa after beating the Lanayru mining facility in Skyward Sword, right? I mean, we all did that, right? We all sassed Impa. Every single one of us, right? Anyway, hopefully that gets the idea across. Kind of long-winded. Might be trying that out sometimes, doing the long-winded answers on these mailbags. I don't know, it's a thing that could happen. But yeah, that's my verdict on Link. Yeah, I will say this though: among the people who do seem to think Link looks cool, and there are plenty, one of the biggest ones seems to be the people who kind of think he's hot. Which might tie in a little bit to why I like Zelda better than Link. Granted, Zelda is usually a lot more of a character, but it might relate a little bit. Stone Tower asks, since you apparently like Zelda but not Link, what do you think of the idea of having a female Link or a game where you play as Zelda? Okay, so obviously I don't hate Link. Okay, I like him. Okay, but you know, as for the idea of playing as Zelda, you know, sure, why not? But it feels like more of a spin-off thing to me because I see the mainline series as the ones where you are the hero who has to save the kingdom, and I feel like Link is the character we know and expect for that role, whether or not he is a character. Whatever, you get what I mean. I feel like Link has to be the main character. As for the idea of, you know, you can put Zelda in other games, maybe spin-off territory, which I've been clear, I'm all for. Yeah, spin-offs, go for it. Absolutely. Awesome. As for the idea of a female Link, I'm actually not opposed to it. In a game like Breath of the Wild in particular, which is very much a game where you make Link your own, it's a really good fit. Just, you know, pick the gender option. It's still Link, or Linkle, as some of the files for the concept artwork of a female Link in Hyrule Warriors are called Linkle. I don't know if she was actually called that in development or not, or if that's just a name people put on the file, but there was concept designs for a female Link in that game. I feel like it'll happen eventually, yet at the same time I feel like it's unlikely to happen in one of the main games, at least for a while, unless they really lean into the character creation stuff, which I guess they might. Simply because I feel like Nintendo wouldn't want to piss off all of the, you know, Zelda Link shippers. Granted, you could still do it, I guess. It's always possible. Obviously, I'm not opposed to the idea, being a fan of, you know, Zelda, and you know, being the guy who's photographing all of the chicks in Breath of the Wild. I need to stop talking, don't I? Just go for it. I don't care. It's fine. You know, maybe it's like the female Zelda villain question I answered previously. You know, make sure it works for the game it's in, or something. I don't know. I don't care. I abstain from. I don't care. You know, just no comment. No. Ancient Poe asks, if you could have them make a Zelda crossover / spin-off title, what would it be? You can do 1 to 3 if you have more than one idea. I have so many ideas. Like, okay, so when I became a Zelda fan, it wasn't because I played, like, when Zelda became my favorite series, which is when I first came to Zelda Dungeon, by the way, it wasn't because I played a new game that I loved. I'd been playing the games for a while. It was because I just decided to start coming up with fan ideas, fan game concepts, so many I couldn't list them. 2 of the main ones involved, okay, so I liked playing around with the idea of what Link's origins were, you know, relating to the Link stuff. So in one of them, you're a Hylian knight apprentice, you know, a squire from a royal family, and you start in Hyrule Castle. These evil sorcerers come, they kidnap sages prior to Ocarina of Time sages, and you have to gather them, you have to gather their instruments and conduct them with the Wind Waker, and you go to the Dark World, because why wouldn't you? It's a fan game. I can put the Dark World in there if I want. And it was called Hylian Orchestra. The other one, Link, is the Gravekeeper's apprentice in Termina, and the bad guy is some ancient evil that served what became Majora's Mask, and it's post-Majora's Mask, by the way. And he's corrupted Termina, and he's trying to get to this primeval darkness under Termina, and basically it's just every game, the whole game is spooky dungeons. Because it's me, okay? I can do what I want. So, but I'm repurposing those into original concepts for a Zelda-like adventure game series I'd like to make someday. What I'd really like Nintendo to actually do is just make that Zelda MMO I keep talking about. Just, it can play like a Zelda game, you can make your own character, it can be any race you want, you know, it doesn't have to be Link. I mean, you can make Link if you want, everyone can just be Links, or not, or you can be whatever. I don't have to play Link, right? And it's just, you can pick a race, you can make your character, you get items, you explore, you do dungeons, you explore with other people, you do dungeons together. It'd be awesome. Just make it, Nintendo. It's free money. You could just make free money. You can even put the dungeon editor in there. Just make the level editor we were talking about before. Just put that in there too. It'll be great. All right, guys, that's it for this time. And you, Zelda questions, contact information in the description. Send them. And I'll see you guys later. I'll take care of them, okay? They'll be gone by next mailbag. I'll get rid of the cards, okay? I'll take care of it. I'll get rid of.